and welcome. My name is Virginia Ibrahim Olin. I am our Director of Housing Administration, and my pronouns of reference are she, her, and hers. We are so glad to have you this evening. Our discussion topic for tonight is how to select a room and meal plan. And we've got a series of folks that are aiding me behind the scenes and will be taking your questions live. So to begin, I just want to review everything that we'll be talking about tonight. First and foremost, we're going to give you a quick snapshot of the housing timeline, so we're all on the same page with what is happening when. Second, we'll talk about your time slot. We'll then discuss what our common room types are so you can be prepared. We will talk about how you select a room as an individual or as a pair. We'll discuss living learning community assignments, provide you all with some tips and tricks if you might be an honors student, talk about meal plans, overview Grad Guard, and then jump into all of your frequently asked questions that you all have. A number of you submitted them online prior to this evening, and so thank you for helping us get the conversation started tonight. So to jump in quickly, thinking about our timeline, on January 7th, the housing application opened. The deadline to participant selection, request a roommate, or apply to join a living learning community was May 3rd. Online room selection will take place for those people who applied by May 3rd between June 2nd and June 15th. So it will be a busy 2 weeks in our housing office shortly. On June 17th, we will email all of you a copy of your housing contract, and that will become legally binding on June 24th. June 28th through July 12th is when we will allow for room changes and meal plan changes over the summer. And it will also be when your loft configurations will be due, is July 12th. So that way we can have your bed all set up for you prior to your arrival. On July 14th, starting then is when you'll be able to log in and select your specific move-in date and time. And then you will move in just a month later, August 16th through 20th. And we will have additional presentations that will talk about the logistics of living on campus, what to expect this fall, and just how move-in is going to go. But tonight, everything we're going to talk about is selecting your room. So let's jump in. Your time slot was emailed to you earlier this week if you were a student who applied for housing by May 3rd. If you were a student who applied for housing after May 3rd, our staff will make your assignment once online room selection has concluded. Time slots were determined on a first come, first served basis. And it's important for you to know that Hawkeye time is Central Daylight Time. So if you need to, double check where Iowa is on your calendar and on your map. And so that way you know exactly what time zone Iowa is in the Central Daylight Time zone. And that's when room selection will occur. I want to make sure that everybody knows you were provided with not only your time slot, but exactly what Hawkeye you were in applying for housing. And it's important to keep in mind that early is relative. We had over 2,400 Hawkeyes apply for housing on the very first day the application opened, and that was on January 7th. So we know that there are over 4,000 of you that will be selecting rooms. And so it will take a bit for us to work through that full batch of folks. Bear with us, be patient. And as I mentioned earlier, if you didn't apply for housing until after May 3rd, you will not be issued a time slot for online room selection because our staff will make your assignment for you. So please refer to your email. It gives you, again, your time slot and your place in line. So hall selection, one of the things that we want you to know is that first year students live in all of our residence halls, but it may be very helpful for you to be aware that returning students selected their rooms first. We have 1,100 students coming on back to the residence halls next year, and they have reserved rooms primarily in Catlett, Mayflower, Peterson, and Stanley Hall. They have also taken the majority of single rooms across campus. We know that a number of you have already emailed us and said, hey, how do I get a room in Stanley? Or how do I live in Catlett? I'd really love a single room. And it's important for you to be aware that as a returning student, they got first priority. And so many of those rooms have likely been already reserved. Now, we have a number of room types available in all of our residence halls, and layouts for these are available on our website. The most common room configuration that you will find is a double room with air conditioning. Those are available in the majority of our residence halls. And then we also have some doubles with bath and air, and that would mean you've got your own private bathroom. We have some with kitchens in Mayflower. We have those that might have pod configuration, and that's just a referral to our new buildings, Catlett and Peterson, although I will talk about bathrooms in a second. If you are looking for a room that has a shared bathroom between it, there are some available in Burge. And then we do have single rooms available in Burge, Courier, Dom, Hillcrest, Reno, Stanley, and Slater. But again, returning students picked quite a number of those. There are more singles out in Mayflower. And then triple and quad occupancy rooms are quite limited. You are only limited to allow yourself to select one roommate, and that's because it is highly unlikely for you to be able to select a triple or a quad occupancy room during room selection. And we didn't want you all to make plans and then not be able to deliver on those. So again, a double room is the most frequently assigned. Now, talking a little bit about restroom types, this is available on our website, and we have several different styles of restrooms. One is our community style, and that offers you a row of sinks, a row of shower stalls, and a row of toilet stalls, all with privacy. Those are primarily found in Burge, Courier, Hillcrest, and Reno halls. We have single user restrooms, which is a sink, a toilet, and a shower all behind a locked door. And those are available in Catlett, Dom, Peterson, Slater, and Stanley halls. We have rooms that may have a shared bath between two different student rooms, and those are in Burge and Mayflower. And then we also have private rooms with a private bathroom, just like a hotel. And those are available in Dom, Burge, Hillcrest, Reno, and Stanley. Again, those are quite limited. So that's just a quick snapshot of what it looks like for you to be able to know what our different restroom styles are and our different room types. So if you are selecting a room as an individual, what you are going to do is you're going to log in during your room selection time. Remember, Central Daylight Time. And what you'll do is you'll pick the building, you'll pick the floor, you'll pick the room, and then you'll actually pick the bed space. And so one thing for you to be aware of is if another person has selected the room, you'll be able to see a snapshot of their profile, so that way you can check out if you two might be compatible. If you happen to be the first person picking that room, then potential roommates will check out your profile to see if they are compatible with you. Okay, and there is a complete slideshow of exactly how to select a room available on our website, and it's linked out in YouTube. One of our staff is going to put that in the chat tonight, so that way you can watch exactly what screens will pop up where as you select from what is available. Now, if you're selecting a room as a roommate pair, the way that things will work is the first Hawkeye with a room selection time slot will select a room on behalf of the pair. Just like you did as an individual, they will log in and select the building, the floor, and a room with 2 out of 2 spaces available. That's really important. You want to make sure that you're picking a room that has spots for both of you in it. And what will happen is the first roommate will assign themselves to one bed space, and then they will assign their roommate to another bed space. Now, it's really important for you to be aware of that as roommates, you two get to select a room together just one time. Once assigned, you cannot change rooms as a pair. If you are interested in changing rooms, what will happen is the second Hawkeye during their room selection period, after they have completed everything, then you two might be able to explore changing rooms during that second person's period. Okay. And the second Hawkeye, they only have to log in to complete Grad Guard, meal plan, and loft configuration information, which I will talk about later on in this presentation. Okay, and again, if you wanted that step-by-step guide, please watch the YouTube video. It's less than 10 minutes and it will show you exact screenshots of everything that you'll do. Now, if you are one of our students, and we've got more than 250 of you all who are going to join a living learning community next year, we can't wait to have you with us. And when it's your room selection period, you will select only on the floor where that living learning community is located. You have agreed that you want to join this, and so when your room selection time is going to be really easy. You're going to log in, you'll only see the building where the LLC is, you'll pick that floor, and then you'll pick your room. If you're picking for a roommate, then you will do the same thing as everybody else. You will assign yourself to one bed space and you'll assign your roommate to another. If you're picking as an individual, then you could either pick an empty room or you could pick a room with a roommate that's already been selected. Now, for our honors students, we have heard from a good number of you asking, how can I live in Dom Hall? Or inquiring, am I guaranteed a space in Dom Hall? You are not guaranteed a space in Dom Hall, and that is because Dom can house just around 300 students, and we know that we will have more than 800 honors participants living on campus with us this year. However, all students who are selected into the honors program will have the opportunity to try to pick a room in Dom. If there is space available during your room selection period, then you could certainly log in and try to pick a room at that time in Dom. I wanted to share with you all a little bit of statistics because I think it could be helpful, that over 400 honors students applied for housing on January 7th, that first day that it was open. Okay, and so with more than 800 coming to live on campus, not everyone will live in Dom, and that's a-okay. Honor students live in all 10 of our residence halls. They have for many, many years, and a number of them are quite successfully participate in the honors program. So we look forward to you living on campus. Again, you're welcome to try and pick a room in Dom as space may allow, but you're not guaranteed a space in there. We certainly have space available for everyone to live on campus in the residence halls. So. Now, one of the questions that we will often receive is, can I change my room once I've selected them? And yes, you can. You can change your room while the portal is open, but after you have learned about Grad Guard renter's insurance and indicated your meal plan. We want to make sure that you take care of those two very important steps first. As I discussed earlier, roommate pairs may change their rooms individually after the second Hawkeye's time slot. And so if you and your roommate are interested in switching from the original room that was selected for your pair, you two will need to coordinate, log in at the same time, and together pick and change into your new room. For anyone that may change their room, it is important for you to know that once you've changed your room, the system is live and your old room may no longer be available. So please proceed with caution. You can certainly explore options without having to commit to a room change until that final step of assigning yourself a bed space. So again, watch our video on how to select a room and you'll see exact slides of all of that information. Now, once you've selected a room, you will see some pages pop up with Grad Guard, and this is about renter's insurance. You will actually leave the housing portal, be taken over to the Grad Guard pages, learn a little bit about renter's insurance, and then seamlessly be brought back into the housing application process. Renter's insurance is highly encouraged for everyone. You are under no obligation to purchase, and so we encourage you all to have a conversation with your family and verify your coverage. But Grad Guard is our official partner here on campus. You can learn more about them and you can choose to enroll with Grad Guard at any time. After you've learned about renter's insurance, then we will have the opportunity for you to select your meal plan. All first-year students are required to have either a black or a gold meal plan. If you choose a room in Mayflower, you'll have the third option of a Hawkeye plan. And I've got a quick slide of those three options later. If you do not select a meal plan, then you'll be assigned the gold plan. And you As you can see on the screen right now, there are 3 different options. All of our meal plans have flex meals, which can be used at all marketplaces and retail dining locations. And meal plan rates have been finalized. So what you see on the screen is what we will be charging this year for a gold, a black, or a Hawkeye plan. You have opportunities to change your meal plan in the summer, and then also in August, starting at those first couple of weeks of school, you have the opportunity to change your meal plan too if you arrive on campus and aren't sure if it's working exactly the way that you might want it to. Now, if you are a student with dietary needs, it's important for us to remind you that all of our marketplaces are open to students with allergies and special dietary needs. We have a registered dietitian, Laura Crado Lopez, who is on our staff, and she is more than happy to meet with you one-on-one over the phone or Zoom, or once you're here on campus, to talk about food allergies, navigating the marketplaces, making a nutritious plate if you're trying to improve your eating habits, and just provide you with some general information. You can schedule an individual appointment with Laura online, and this can happen throughout the summer. She's also going to be hosting 2 special orientation webinars for incoming students who may have special dietary needs, and we'll share more with you about that at the very end. So once you have selected a room and meal plan, you can predetermine your loft configuration. Our custodial crew is happy to have your bed set up for you prior to your arrival on campus. We have 5 different options that are available for you, and we ask that you submit all of those by July 12th. That will give our staff enough time to move your bed up or down, however you may feel most comfortable. And so that way, when you move in, you don't have to worry about moving a darn thing. Now, say you don't select a loft configuration right away, no stress. You would just put in a work order, and they typically get those done within a day or 2, right around that move-in period. After you have done everything, our housing contract will be emailed to students who participated in online room selection on June 17th, and those housing contracts will become legally binding on June 24th. And so what that means is you can select a room, select a meal plan, be issued a housing contract, and you can decide to change your housing arrangements at any point until June 24th without financial penalty. After June 24th, we would ask that you contact our office or refer to your contract for contract release options. I can see that you all have been asking lots of questions in the Q&A, and our staff is working behind the scenes to get you all information. We are going to jump into some of the frequently asked questions that you submitted prior to tonight's webinar. And so bear with us just a moment and we'll get going on those shortly. So the first question is, my room was assigned for me, either by housing staff or by my roommate. Do I need to still log in to the housing portal? Yes, you should log in anytime after your room selection period to make sure that you have learned about renter's insurance, selected a meal plan, and if you want, you could indicate your loft configuration. That's your opportunity to have a say in those different options available for you. Now, sometimes we hear from Hawkeyes and they're very worried. What if I can't make my time slot? You know, I'm working, I've got an athletic competition, I've got a variety of personal factors going on. That's okay. You can log in anytime after your time slot. Your time slot is just when you can start the room selection process. And in general, we have about 20 students entering the housing application portal every 15 minutes throughout the day. So that can give you an idea. There may be Hawkeyes who access the system before you. There may be some who access the system after you. Now, if you can't make your time slot, make sure that you have had a conversation with your roommate pair about them potentially selecting during their time slot if they've got an earlier one. So that's a conversation that we recommend. Now, what if you don't get into the building or the room type that you were hoping for? Overall, we recommend that everybody have about 7 different locations in mind prior to room selection. With so many Hawkeyes who applied on day 1, it is hard for us to predict what might be available. You will be impacted by those people who selected before you, and you will impact those people who select after you. So again, talk with your roommate about options so that way both of you are comfortable with your alternate plans. Room changes are available after you've selected a meal plan, and you can look at options before you finalize a change. And if you want to change rooms with your roommate, remember that both students have to log in and independently change their room to whatever that new assignment is. We also encourage you, though, to keep an open mind, because you may not have ever seen or considered a different building. And once you're there, I can tell you, you'll probably really love it. All 10 of our halls have great history on campus, with Hawkeyes living there for many, many years. So we hope that you'll enjoy them. Now, when will you pick your move-in date and time? You can log in and select your move-in date and time in mid-July, after July 14th. And there will be several options for you to select. And you talk to your family, figure out what works best for your schedule. Early arrival is on Sunday, August 15th. There is a $35 charge for that. But then new student move-in will take place Monday through Thursday, August 16th through August 19th. And so there will be a variety of times that you could select on any of those days that may work with your schedule. We look forward to you all coming and moving in and participating in On Iowa. And remember too that we will have a webinar that will talk all about the move-in process, so you don't have to stress about the logistics right now. Now, we've heard from a handful of you that are interested in changing your roommate. And so I want to give you all a reminder that roommate changes requests, were due online May 3rd. And so online roommate matching is no longer available. You may choose to leave your roommate group at any time for whatever personal factors may arise. However, if you wanted to pair with a new roommate, you'll have two options. Either A, each of you can try to select the same room at the same time. You might have to get on the phone and coordinate, or you could have a staff make your assignment with your roommate. And I would encourage you and your roommate to email us at housing@uiowa.edu if you are interested in having staff make your assignment with that new roommate. I want to share with you all a few helpful resources before we jump into answering more of your questions live and on the screen. So first and foremost, we have several different presentations that I've mentioned today. One is our move-in logistics and what to expect for fall. We will be offering those presentations at two different periods, one in July on the 20th and one in August on the 3rd, both at 6:00 p.m. So you and your families are welcome to join us at that time. We will offer presentations on food allergies and special diets in the month of July. And so watch your email for those. And then we will be at parent orientation, talking to you all with some of our colleagues from across campus on June 2nd, 17th, 22nd, and 29th. That presentation will be primarily towards family members, but Hawkeyes, we welcome to have you all along as well. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening. If you have additional questions, I want to put our contact information on the screen before we jump into answering more of your questions live. So for housing applications and assignments, contact our staff at housing@uiowa.edu. For marketplaces and meal plans, you can email our staff at dining@uiowa.edu. And I can see some questions coming through about living learning communities. To talk more one-on-one with our team about that, you can email res-education@uiowa.edu. If any of you have not yet accepted your admission, or you've got questions about transcripts or things you need to submit, our admissions contact information is also available on this screen. Okay, well, let's jump into your questions. So I can see that you all have been putting in quite a number through the Q&A, and I'm just going to double check with my colleagues about some broad themes to share with you all a response about verbally. So bear with me one moment. Thanks For the quick pause, folks, I just wanted to double check with everybody. It sounds like a number of you have questions about how to select a room with a roommate. And so the way that you'll do that is you and your roommate should talk, figure out who has the first room selection period. If it is you, then you will log in during your time slot and you will select a room with 2 out of 2 spaces available in it. That means that there is a space for each of you to take it. And so what will happen is you will pick that room, you will assign yourself a bed space, and then you will assign your roommate the second space that's available in that room. Once you hit click and confirm, then the 2 of you will be assigned and you'll be able to see that one of you is in bed 1 and the other person is in bed 2 for that room. We will also put a link in the chat so that way you can review the how to select a room slideshow that does include screenshots of the housing application portal and to see exactly what it looks like. But those are really great questions. Again, we recommend that you and your roommate have some discussion about where you all might be interested in living and what different halls and room types that you two would be open to. So great ways to talk. So far, we have answered 115 of your questions, and I can see that there are 72 more coming through, and so our team is doing as fast as they can to keep those fingers moving. I can see one of them that is about a living learning community. And Michael, thanks for your question. Can you apply for an LLC next semester, or do I have to wait until next year? Typically, most folks get involved in living learning communities right away in that fall. And that's because we have you all take a course in common and live on the floor together. And so it's a great way to get to know people on a few different levels. And that's where some of the magic of the living learning community happens. You could choose to join one in the spring, but there is not that course in common. And you might miss a semester's worth of activities. If you have missed the opportunity to join a living learning community and are still interested, I encourage you to please email our team and put your application in. We have a handful of our living learning communities that have space available, and then we also have some that are currently running a wait list. But if there are vacancies, we would certainly be happy to reach out and offer you that opportunity. So good question. Thank you. Okay, one of our anonymous attendees asked 2 questions that I'd like to respond to. One said, how do I know what number I am? And I would encourage you to look at the email that you would have received from our team yesterday. We sent that out to both your personal email address and to your UIowa email account. It provides you with your time slot, the date that you applied for housing, and what number you are in line for room selection. Now, the other question that they had is, what type of meal plan would you suggest if I eat 2 or 3 meals a day, but also would like to occasionally eat out? I think the way that we typically respond to that is to ask yourself if you eat breakfast. If you are a person who typically eats breakfast, then I would recommend that you consider the Gold plan, which is our unlimited plan. However, if you're not a big breakfast eater and only eat a handful of times throughout the day, then I would recommend the Black plan for you, which averages out to about 2 meals a day throughout the course of the semester. So we can certainly talk with you more one-on-one if you've got questions about your specific dietary needs. All right. So I'm just going to check a couple more of these great questions that you all have going in. I can see that there are a number of questions coming through about roommates and living learning communities, where one person in the roommate group or the roommate pair, we use that language together, and one roommate has been accepted into a living learning community and the other roommate may not have been. I would recommend that the 2 of you have a conversation as a roommate pair and then check back in, because the roommate who was not admitted, they might potentially get an offer off the wait list this week. And so that's one piece. But if you wanted to only people accepted into the living learning community will be able to select a room on that particular floor. So the accepted roommate could pick a room in the LLC and the other roommate could not. And so that's where we encourage you to talk about what's important. If you want to be in the LLC, double check that status on the wait list, and then potentially explore, either staying in the LLC or potentially leaving. But depending on what's going on, we might be able to help both of you. So we've got a couple of questions coming through about if people can choose a room during your roommate's time slot if you are busy. And so you can only log in with your Hawk ID at your room selection time. Your roommate can log in during their room selection time with their Hawk ID and their password. So I think the two of you should talk and figure out who has the earliest availability and when people are free, and that's when you can log in to select your space. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, just checking. You all are fast and furious on the questions, and so I want to make sure that we are doing it. Several of you have asked, Alyssa, you specifically want to know, how likely is it to get into DOM if I have a time slot on June 10th? And unfortunately, I can't predict that for you. I would recommend, Alyssa, that you come up with several different options for where you might be excited to live and be ready to explore them all. It's hard to say. With so many people who applied for housing on day one, it is hard to predict if all of the people who are in honors are going to want to live in DOM. Some do, some don't. And so I think that same logic applies for a number of halls. I can see a lot of questions coming through about catlit, which I think I would like to caution you all again and remind you that returning students selected a number of rooms in catlit hall. And so it's hard to tell exactly what space will be available during your room selection time. And so that's why we encourage you to have 7 different buildings that you might be flexible and willing to live in. So that way, if during your room selection period, your first choice isn't open, then you could just go on to your second or your third choice. So switching gears just a little bit, someone has asked the question, are we allowed to leave our dorms to visit our family or stay the night with them, or do we have to stay in the halls every single evening? Anonymous person, that is not a dumb question. It's a real question. You are living on your own independently. We do not do bed checks. You are welcome to come and go as you please. We will allow guests in the fall. And so when we have our presentation about what to expect for fall semester, we encourage you to log in and watch that, and we could talk with you a little bit more about what the guest policy would be at that time or what you're free to do. The one thing that I can say is that if you do have a roommate, you and your roommate need to talk about what it would mean for you to have a friend spend the night, or if you're not going to be there, it might be nice to give your roommate a heads up to say, hey, I'm going to go home and visit my family for the weekend. I won't be here, FYI. So thanks so much for your good question. Okay, I can see that Carter has asked a question about if I'm picking a room and I'm looking at someone else's profile to choose a roommate, is this something that I can customize now, or is it made based on our major? Your roommate profile is determined based on your answers to the lifestyle questionnaire that you filled out when you applied for housing. We asked you a number of questions about how neat do you keep the room? What time do you go to bed? If you happen to be a student with any dietary needs or food allergies, you'd want a roommate to be aware of, pardon me. And so you'll get a quick snapshot of who you are that a roommate can see when choosing room selection. And it's all information that you would have self-reported out. and that a roommate could see if they might be compatible with. So at this point, our online roommate matching has closed, but you would have the opportunity to at least, again, look at that snapshot of someone and figure out, hey, you know, they're going to be up at 5 a.m. for crew or for ROTC, and I like to sleep until, you know, at least 8:30. So we may or may not be the most compatible roommates, and then choose to go and select another roommate at that point. Now, if you did not request a roommate, will it be potluck style done by the university? No, it won't be done by the university, but it'll be done by your fellow Hawkeyes. Either you will select into a room that has another Hawkeye assigned to it, or someone would select into the room that you've selected. And I want to let you all know that whether you have requested a roommate up front or you get an anonymous roommate that you haven't met, we have lots of supports to be able to help you all transition into life together. We understand that living on campus is a new and exciting opportunity that many of us have never had prior to coming to university. And so living with someone takes some compromise, and our resident assistant staff are trained to help you all navigate what it means to share a room with someone new. So lots of opportunities to have a successful relationship, get to know someone, either someone you already predetermined online or someone that you're going to meet for the first time in August. Lots of great chances. I've seen a few different questions come through about floor plans of buildings. Those will be available in the online room selection tool. When you go to pick a room, you'll actually be able to click on a link and see where that room is located in the floor. For security purposes, we do not put our floor plans publicly on our housing website, but they will be available when it is your room selection time. So that way you have a general understanding within the building where that particular room may be located. So good question. So Giuseppe asked the question, if I don't pick a room at my designated time, will one be assigned for me? And yes, we will. Our team will follow up and say, hey, you know, what happened? You missed your room selection period. Are you still coming to campus? Because we want to make sure about your plans. And then our team will assign you a room if you are, for one reason or another, unable to select your own space. So thanks for asking. So a couple of folks have asked again, where do you see your number that people have been referring to, or where do you find your time slot? I am going to refer you back to the email that you received from University Housing and Dining yesterday. That went both to your personal account, or that went to your @uiowa.email address to let you know about what your time slot and your room selection number is, along with a lot of other helpful information. So double check your email accounts to make sure that you received that. Oh, and Ricardo, I appreciate this. So the question was, did parents get copied on emails? We will send out corresponding messages to parents, but it is not our practice to copy parents on exact emails to students. I appreciate you asking that. I think that's a good one. As Hawkeyes transition to life independently, they are the primary contract holder. And so we encourage them to share their communication with you all. If your student has listed you as a contact on their housing application, then we would send out general housing information saying, hey, by the way, room selection is coming up, or housing contracts were sent out, but we would not necessarily always copy you on the specific message sent to your student. I hope that offers some clarification, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do our presentation at orientation starting on June 2nd. this was a good question. It says, if my roommate doesn't want to be the first one to pick, how do I select for them? Do I use their login? No, you don't use their login. You would use your own. You would log in during your room selection period. And if your roommate has not selected a room yet, whichever one of you is the first one to log in will get the chance to pick on behalf of your pair. And so then you could select a room for both of you if you wanted to. Thanks, that's a good one. Then we had another anonymous person who asked, which halls have the biggest rooms? And I can tell you hands down, Mayflower Hall has the biggest rooms and the most closet space. That building has several closets for each of their students. And so if you're interested in a lot of closet space, check out Mayflower. So another popular question that a number of you has been asking is, how long does room selection take? It typically takes about 5 to 10 minutes to pick a room. I think it really depends on how specific you want to get. If you're open and pretty flexible with options, then you can log in, kind of narrow down to 1 or 2 buildings, select a floor, pick a room, and call it good. But if you are looking for something very specific, like only one hall or only one room type, then it may take you a little bit longer depending on what option you're looking for and what is available at the time. One helpful thing for you to be aware of is that our system is responsive. And so if there are only double rooms available, then that is all that will display to you. If during your room selection period, you log in and you were hoping to live in Slater, but you don't see Slater Hall available, that means that all the spaces in Slater have been selected at that time. You are certainly welcome to pick a room in another building and then log back in to see if there are future openings that may occur. It really all depends on what's happening at your particular room selection time. Okay, we've seen a couple of you asking questions like, I applied for housing and I have a time slot to pick my own room, but I didn't request a roommate yet. And I have someone in mind that I would like to live with. There are 2 ways for you all to live together. Number 1 is to log in at the same time and try to select the same room together. The other option is for you to have our staff assign you to a room together as a roommate pair. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. As an individual, you can only reserve 1 space for yourself unless you have officially requested that roommate by May 3rd. There's no way for you to log in and hold another space in a room that you desire for someone else. That's not fair. We are only allowing that for people who met the deadline. So, but there are options for you and this Hawkeye to become roommates. You'll just need to coordinate with them or coordinate with our staff for some support. Okay. Madison, you asked the question, will we know right away if we get our preferred hall? And yes, you will. You will know right away which room you've selected in your particular building. So again, stay flexible and you will not be disappointed. Cool. Sure. So I'm hearing from a couple of folks that they didn't request a roommate, wasn't planning on it, and wanted to know what to do as an individual. 1, thanks for asking. And 2, you are absolutely not alone. Only about 40%, only about 50% of our students request a roommate. And so 50% of you Hawkeyes are going to be connecting with another student. What will happen is you will log in and you will either select a completely empty room, or you will select a room that has another Hawkeye in it. And when you select a room with a Hawkeye in it, you will be able to see the profile of that other person, and you can make that decision on the spot if you think you and that fellow Hawkeye might be compatible. So you'll get a snapshot of it and be able to view their profile and when they go to bed. So I can see that there are a lot of questions coming through about DOM Residence Hall. And DOM Residence Hall is only available for honors students, and it is only available for first-year honors students. So no returning honors students have selected into DOM Hall at this time. However, DOM cannot hold all of the honors students that may want to live there. And so it's important that if you are an honors student and thinking about living in DOM, if you have a roommate, both roommates must qualify and participate in the honors program in order to live in DOM. And during your room selection period, if there's a space there, awesome. Pick it, go forth and have a great year. If you do not select a room in DOM, that's great too. We have honor students that live in all of our residence halls. So thanks for asking. Now, Vanessa, you asked, if I got into an LLC and did not have a preferred roommate, will my roommate be chosen for me? And the same information would apply for you. You will either select an empty room, or you'll select a room with another person who has also chosen to join your living learning community. And the nifty piece for you to remember is that you two will already have something in common to jump your roommate relationship off with. You both wanted to join that LLC. And so that's a great way for you to figure out what you have in common and to build on your experience together as Hawkeyes this fall, as you take that class in common and get to participate in all the fun activities that your LLC has planned for you. A few of you are trying to confirm, I was accepted into this particular living learning community. Does that mean I'm living in that hall? And yes, it does. If you have been offered a space in that living learning community and responded to the offer to confirm that, yes, you wanted to be in it, we did that via email and you logged into the portal and said, yes, I'm totally staying in that LLC, then you're good to go. What you'll need to do is just log in and pick your specific room within that living learning community. So good question. Thank you. Okay, you all have been super fast and furious. We've got about 10 minutes left in our time together. We will continue to answer your questions. I want to address a couple of them. Some of you have asked about marching band move-in. And if you are participating in marching band, we will work with the band program to make sure that you can move in at the appropriate time you might need to for all of your band preparation. So thank you for asking. We'll coordinate with them directly because we know it's just a small handful of you Hawkeyes that are working with the marching band. Okay, someone had asked a question, if I only want to live with a same gender roommate, how is this determined if I have an open space in your room? Thank you for asking. Our roommate matches are made based on the sex that you may have reported when you applied to the university. And so that information all kind of filters down. And so if you are a female student, then you would only select rooms with other female students. If you're a male student, then you would select rooms with other male students. And if you happen to be a student who is interested in gender inclusive housing, then you would have indicated that on your housing application, and our staff would reach out and work with you individually to make sure that you could have a mixed gender roommate pair if you needed one. So good questions. So the first day that students will start choosing rooms is on June 2nd. That is specifically when participants in our living learning communities will select their rooms. They've already got spots kind of allocated for them in particular halls. And then traditional room selection will kick off on June 3rd and will continue with people being issued time slots all the way until Friday, June 11th. The housing application portal for room selection will remain open until the 15th. So that way, if you don't log in during your time slot or you wanted to change your room, you've got plenty of time to explore what options will be available for you. Okay. I've seen a couple questions about visiting campus and coming to view the residence halls. Currently, our residence halls are closed, and we closed for spring semester, and we only have housing available for those people that are signed up to live with us over the summer. If you are interested in taking a tour of our residence halls, you can arrange for that through the Office of Admissions. We are doing some special visit days throughout the summer where you could come, you could visit campus, you could participate in a special welcome for incoming Hawkeyes. And as part of that, you could take a tour of some of our halls and dine in Hillcrest Hall that is available. We are not open for just general tours to show up and walk in because we're still transitioning our processes as we've been navigating COVID this year and are knee deep in preparations for fall 2021. There are a number of construction projects that are going on in our residence halls. And so even if you happen to be in the Iowa City area, you may not have access to the buildings because of that construction. And we just need to keep everyone safe. So if you're interested in visiting, I would recommend that you sign up to come to a campus tour this summer. That's what I would recommend. Thank you. So I've seen a number of questions come through about all of our residence halls co-ed, and they are. We have men and women that live in all of our residence halls, along with trans-identified folks that call the University of Iowa residence halls home. The pattern for how they are co-ed varies by building. Some of them are co-ed by floor, which would mean that there is one floor that might be designated for men and another floor that might be designated for women. However, we also have some that are co-ed by room, and that could mean that there might be one room of women and then the next room down the hall is a room of men, and with everyone having the opportunity to have privacy in the restroom facilities. We do not have co-ed restrooms. So just so that way you all can be prepared that all of our halls are co-ed, but not all of our floors are co-ed. I've seen a handful of questions comes through about single rooms and how do I pick one? And what it would mean is that when it is your room selection time, you would log in and you would filter the options by room type, and you would filter for single rooms. If there is a single room available at that time, then you could select it for yourself. I want to issue you some caution. The majority of our rooms on campus are double occupancy rooms. And with that in mind, because so many of our rooms are double occupancy, many of our single occupancy rooms for one person are typically selected by our returning students who they picked their rooms in March. So singles are quite limited. Brian, I would recommend that you be prepared to live in a double room and explore some options that way. However, if you happen upon a single, you are absolutely welcome to pick it, and it would totally be your lucky day. So we will also have room changes available. So that way, if you wanted to explore after you've picked a double room, you know, maybe a single has opened up for one reason or another, then you could certainly look to change your rooms later. So cool. I've seen several of you ask about what page in your admissions profile can you confirm that you have accepted the opportunity and will becoming a Hawkeye. I would encourage you to log in to My UI, and we can type that answer and put that out in the chat for you all. And so you log into My UI with your Hawkeye ID and password, and you just click on your admissions profile, and that's where you would click accept admission. And we are very excited to have you coming on and joining us this fall. So welcome. All right, friends, we can see that there are still about 50 questions that we have not been able to answer yet, but we've got 367 of them all knocked out. Thank you to our very busy team behind the scenes. A couple of things that we will do is, if for some reason we have not been able to answer your question and you have provided your contact information, we can certainly follow up with you. I wanted to remind everyone of our contact information, because if you're like me, inevitably you leave a webinar and you discover that you've got just one more. So feel free to reach out to us. I cannot remind you enough, please include your full name, so that first and last name, and if you know it, your 8-digit university ID. That will allow our team the opportunity to respond specifically to your needs. We're happy to help you out as best that we're able, and we are so darn excited to have you all joining us on campus this fall. We will follow up with you all to give you a quick reminder about that How to Choose Your Room YouTube video that's out there that provides screenshots of the application itself, so you know what you're getting into. We can't wait to see you online, and we will talk with you all soon. Have a great night.